Social emotional learning, Bala and Rohit were asking what is social emotional learning or what constitutes social emotional learning, and wouldn't all learning be seen as cognitive or academic learning? Actually, yes, everything happens in the brain, so everything is cognitive in that sense. But I think what comes under the domain of social emotional learning, we would put self-awareness. Devika referred to it, self-awareness. And there are various characteristics or indicators under self-awareness that would demonstrate self-awareness. Then there's self-management, ability to work in teams, relationships, communication, decision-making, etc. These are some of the broad themes under socio-emotional learning, which basically means managing yourself and managing your behavior with other people. Basically, in a nutshell, that's what social emotional learning is. It doesn't necessarily have to be connected with a particular academic subject. Of course, if you're teaching mathematics or science or language, you can be nurturing self-management, self-awareness, ability to talk to each other, deal with conflict, etc., relate to each other. Of course you can. So we're not ever suggesting that you should look at social emotional learning separate from other academic learning. But these are some of the areas, and which can be worked with your regular subjects.
The social emotional that we are talking about, again, like when we speak about it, as we are saying that it's personal and social well-being, and it is not the only social emotional aspect that how we have come to understand it, and it includes the ways in which people respond to their environment given their cultural, economic, social context. So, and this includes the way we have tried to make sense of it through the NCF is not just the the traditional social emotional aspects, but we are look how people will learn to be independent in their thoughts, how people are learning to learn, how they are they are developing their aesthetic appreciation or abilities, how they are sensitive to others' well-being, and how they are participating in democratic and social democratic processes and social change.
So I do think that even if the social and emotional environment, even if we have not defined it very exactly, even if it is not very healthy, it might be useful to assess it. You might use grosser methods to assess it if the idea is just to give importance to it or whatever. Now on this very interesting point of is this really different from cognitive learning? Is it separate? So on one hand, I would say they're very closely linked, but I would like to almost insist that they are a little separate in the sense. So for example, right, we were doing this project in Maldives where they want values and attitudes and these things to be assessed, and so we're trying to understand what is what are the key challenges in society, what's happening, and one of the issues in Maldives is drug abuse. Even children at the age of 12, 1 out of 2 children are actually taking drugs. And there are children who are very good at their science and math, but for some reason, for reasons of identity, peer pressure, whatever, they are more susceptible to, say, starting a drug habit. So I think this itself is sufficient evidence, or at least pointing to the fact that there are slightly two separate things. So you might be, very bright in terms of your math, science, even history or whatever, but when it comes to personal choices or coping with the social situation, you are unable to give an adequate response. So I think that suffices to show there is some different thing operating here. I do think that if you look at the social, what are you basically saying when you're saying emotional or social domain? At one level, you're talking of your ability to say manage yourself, right, in terms of your emotions or whatever, and at another level in terms of relating with others. So the whole point of such an assessment, or even getting into this, is that what kind of choices are you making, right, in situations? There are other choices. So are you aware that there are other choices, right? So that would be the teaching part, or the pedagogy part, and then leave the individual free to make his own choices when he understands that there are certain consequences of this.
I agree with what Vishnu is trying to say. I think there is a big difference. And I see it when some children who perform very well in mathematics or science or social studies or language and so on are unable perhaps to interact with somebody else, are unable to discuss what they have learned with a fellow classmate and so on. So if we believe discussing, being able to talk, share, communicate is important, I'm not saying it does not happen in the brain. Everything resides in and comes from the brain, but it is different in the sense that it is a different perhaps part of our brain that processes that kind of learning. How do you handle conflicts? How do you build resilience so that when I am encountering a fearful situation, I am fearful, but I'm aware of my fear, but I'm also aware that I have choices and possibilities of handling. I think that comes from a different kind of understanding or capacity, for want of a better word. So in that sense, it's slightly different. It started with our work with teachers, and we used to train teachers. We continue to train teachers, of course, in teaching methodologies, classroom management skills, better teaching approaches in terms of subjects, and so on. I began to see a pattern that while they were adopting new ideas and new methods, the fundamental way in which they were looking upon the child was not changing. They continued to look upon the child as somebody who could not be trusted, who may not be able to learn on his own or her own. And that's when it struck me that unless that changes, nothing else will change. So that was one point of my interest in social emotional learning, because I did not come from the research or large scale assessment angle. I came more from the classroom. We are looking at developing standards for social emotional learning for Indian schools. So that's my interest in social emotional learning. It comes from how I've seen teachers and students interact. And if we believe, why is social emotional learning important? If we believe education is for ensuring that people are both humane as well as human, then I think social emotional learning is vital as much as the academic or scholastic, as CBSE would say, scholastic learning. For instance, just yesterday I was at a school, and it's a school that we're working with. It's a low-cost private school. I walked to several classes unannounced, and I found every other teacher having a stick in the hand. So if you're talking about social emotional learning of children, it cannot happen, as Vishnu was saying, in an environment which does not nurture social emotional learning. Evoking fear is the way we seem to teach in all our schools. And I would not say it's only schools for less privileged. It exists across all our schools. So I think there is something fundamentally askew about how in India we see children. Maybe it's in other parts of the world, but I can only comment about our schools in India. So if that does not change, if that the fundamental way in which teachers and adults and children interact with each other doesn't change, we can't be talking about social emotional learning. And then, of course, we have to begin to look at assessment of social emotional learning.
My journey started, although on the same path, but started a little differently. Coming from, understanding children and wanting to, help children in terms of, being a child psychologist or counselor. And so from that perspective, when, realizing that children spend, a lot of attentive, alert waking hours in school. And when we are trying to develop and nurture children into, these human beings who are capable, who have potential in different areas. So when we talk about child development, what is the role of school in nurturing these abilities that a child or a person has? And spending those first few very important years in the school, what effect the school environment has on that kind of development. My struggle in working in this area started with wanting to know why is the emphasis given separately. And I think I will continue to struggle with it until someone either stops me or there is a change. That this space, this domain, when we are talking about it, social and emotional, should not be looked at separate from the academic, from the scholastic, from the cognitive, because those are the, you know, the verses of this domain, the whole domain. But the way we want to learn skills, the way in which we nurture the abilities that a child has in developing these skills, I think is a combination, is a blend that we should focus on. Not only the skills, not only the way, but the way in which we are nurturing these skills among our children who are going to school.
So my own perspective on this is, see, there are two purposes assessment serve. One is to provide specific feedback, or there might be certain, desirable things to be achieved, and where do we stand with respect to that. That is one purpose. But I think an equally important purpose of assessment is also to shed light on what is important. Just by, even if the assessment is not perfect yet, the moment you say that I'm going to assess these things, I'm going to assess, whether you have a certain degree of self-control, or you know how to represent your point of view without upsetting someone, or you're going to assess a certain environment, whether a teacher is inviting questions or dialogue. The moment you are saying that I'm going to assess this, and even if you're making 50% perfect attempt, I think the important thing about this is that it focuses attention that this is important, it is valued, and we need to work on this. When you are trying to measure social and emotional learning, what are you trying to measure? Are you trying to measure the so-called end results, of like the student should be able to do this, or should display this kind of an attitude, or are you trying to measure an environment which produces certain, what you would say social and emotional learning goals? And I think the answer to that, we were quite unanimous in saying that both are equally important. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of tools. Some of these are in your handout, so that you get a bit of a context of what kind of tools am I talking about. And so this is an example of a question or a tool to check students' attitudes towards civic responsibility. We had used it in the quality education study. I think many of you attended the presentation last year. So it just says, when is it okay to throw out garbage on the street? And the students are told there is no correct answer. When there are no garbage bins, when others do the same, and never. And what is interesting is that the data shows you when, you've asked the question in classes 4, 6, and 8, that the so-called, ideal answer, it's never okay to do this, if you think that's the ideal answer. Younger children tend to, give the ideal answer, but as they grow older, they, say that when others do the same, it's okay. So it gives you a certain kind of insight about how we are as a people at large, right? So moving to assessing the environment, so you're not assessing, the sort of end results, how the student is, what he's thinking, but actually looking at the environment. So this is an example of some of the, the part of the tool which assessed classroom climate. So, teachers and principals were asked questions like: strict discipline is necessary for proper teaching. For discipline to be there, a teacher's control is a must. Students should fear the teacher. How much do you agree? And we saw, very strong correlation between a belief in strict discipline, sort of a negative correlation. So the more you believe in strict discipline, the lower the academic performance. And the other correlation which was possible was to look at. So what you see in the chart there is student perception of teacher support, involvement in the classroom, and equity in the classroom. So you actually see that, wherever there's a belief in strict discipline, those classrooms, there is actually a negative perception on these three parameters. So these are the kind of things which large-scale assessments are, strong at.
I have a little reservation at this point in time about how much can we measure it. But we definitely want children to go on a journey from point A to point B, having some feedback loops of assessing that whether children are moving in a direction that our education aims to achieve. Because these attributes are not static. They are constantly wavering. People have different preferences at different point of time. So we cannot, unlike the traditional way which has been saying that, you know, your personality is like this, your interests are these, and your aptitude is this. I think at this in this age we should not be talking about measuring and you know, containing the person's dynamic abilities and attributes in those ways. So
Let me begin. Number one, let us not forget that the school and classroom are social units. We talk about individual learning, but basically we are in a social unit. So when this whole question about they being different or not being different, these questions are being raised repeatedly, and Sonal has answered in her own way. I also would like to answer in my own way. They may be the same, they may be different. I am unwilling to enter into that debate. But what I am surely trying to say is, there is a need to flag them separately. Just as, now I am responding in a very different way to Rohit and Hardy, just as there is unity of knowledge. And when two of the presenters talked about integrated learning, Rohit came in saying, what are you talking about? Knowledge. You have to also talk about disciplines. So, you know, this whole issue of reductionism and holistic, gestaltic is important. While whatever is happening is cognitive, social, emotional, and many other things together. So whatever is happening is all of them together. Nobody is trying to separate. But if you are talking about assessment, if you are talking about development, and you are only focusing on one, then there is a tendency to neglect the others. And that is why we are talking about different disciplines. Otherwise, all disciplines only try to explain the world. Purpose. What is the purpose? And I am responding. Are you thinking about a particular kind of society? Education is meaningless unless you have a social vision. Are you looking for an authoritarian society or a democratic society? On that will depend whether a Spartan method of school discipline is acceptable or not acceptable.